Alright, you primitive screwheads, listen up! You see this? This is my boomstick! It's a 12 gauge, single barrel Mossberg, and... What am I doing? This is stupid. Seriously. This is dumb. Just cut it, guys. Cut it off. Let's just start over. Let's do this without all the stupid special effects and makeup and green screen and all this. Let's just do this. Just let's talk about it, okay? I had enough of this. Let's just talk about the thing. None of this. See? Isn't this nice? Not everything has to be a giant spectacle, you know. So it seems like a lot of times that I'm doing these Blue Chair reviews, I end up doing discussions on intellectual properties from my childhood that are being remade and rebooted and rehashed, and I seem to talk about that a lot, and it seems to be the leitmotif of this channel as of late, but so be it. You know, it seems like, as far as Hollywood is concerned, for every good remake, there's at least 3 bad ones, and then every now and then there's one that I'm kind of on the fence about. Yeah, I'll get to that one soon enough. But anyway, once in a blue moon, however, when all the planets align and the pages from the Necronomicon are read, there can be a reboot that pretty much checks off everything that a good reboot should have. And in this case, it's Ash vs. the Evil Dead. When I had first heard about it, I was ecstatic, because just right off the bat when I had heard about it, it was like, yes, Bruce Campbell is going to reprise his role as Ash, even though he's got to be like 58 or something like that at this point. He still comes back, and that was one of my biggest complaints when it came to say how the Ghostbusters 3 is going to come out. Ghostbusters 3 apparently isn't going to have anyone reprising their roles anytime soon. They're not going to be in there. The entire story, while using the source material, isn't going to be a shot-for-shot remake. It's going to be a complete retooling. All new characters, all new storylines, all new costumes, everything. Everything's going to be retooled. Ash vs. the Evil Dead, however, pretty much checks off all the spots on my list that make for a good reboot. And I gave it a lot of thought. I'm not completely against reboots like it seems that I am. I'm not completely against it. It just, there's a very specific way it needs to be done for it not to be good, but to be acceptable in my eyes as a reboot. I have a very specific checklist of things I like to see for reboots. Number 1 being using the original actors and characters. I don't think that's a whole lot to ask, but sometimes I can understand it can't be done. But, you know, we've seen in the past that it works, and it works very well. My second one is I'd like to see, if they're going to rehash or reboot something, that there's a continuation of, or a growth of that material's canon or backstory. You know, I like to see things grown upon rather than just tossed in the trash and just like, well, we're gonna take that basic idea and just redo everything. It just, to me, that doesn't make sense, because why fix something that's not broken? You know, that's the way that I see it. And Ash vs. the Evil Dead does exactly that. It doesn't try to fix what's not broken. It takes what people enjoyed about the original franchise and builds upon it. My third thing that I really like to see out of reboots is a similar style or approach that is like the original franchise. For example, you know, let's take RoboCop, for example. The remake is very drastically different, both the stylization and the core message of the film, the original film, is very much different in the reboot, and I feel like that kind of turned me off a lot to it. Now, it's not terrible by any means. I think it's still on as a movie. If it had anything other than the RoboCop name attached to it, it would have done okay. But since they tried to use that source material, but then completely just sort of tossed it, kept the meaty center, and then just sort of ran with everything else, total waste of a good franchise in my eyes. So now I want to dive into exactly why Ash vs. the Evil Dead, to me, is a fantastic show that I feel like anyone who is a fan of the original franchise, or maybe has never even experienced at all. I think both ends of the spectrum are going to be completely immersed in what goes on in Ash vs. the Evil Dead. Now, if you're familiar with the story, yes, Ash is back. You know, he's of course he's an old man. He doesn't really have a whole lot going for it. Lives in a trailer, works a dead-end job. He's not very good at it. He has like one close friend, not a whole lot going on. He still thinks he's a shit, which I fucking think is it's classic Ash. He still thinks he's the baddest motherfucker on the planet, but he's obviously this old geriatric fool who keeps convincing himself that he still has something going on when he clearly doesn't. Of course, this all backfires when he gets cocky, gets zooted out of his mind, and decides to read pages from the Necronomicon to impress some, I don't know, prostitute or so. I don't know who she was, but obviously not someone with a very good moral standard. So anyway, of course, you know, the Deadites come back, the Evil Dead comes back, starts terrorizing all these people, and then Ash, you know, he's like, well, fuck it, I'm gonna skip town. And that backfires in his face because, well, it turns out that the Evil Dead is looking for him and they're gonna find him no matter what. So eventually he decides to take up the mantle as the hero of time, you know, the hero from Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness as well, but I don't see a whole lot of Army of Darkness influencing this particular show, which is a shame, but I feel like that's not necessarily a bad thing because it kind of gives them somewhere to go later on in the seasons where something from Army of Darkness pretty much, you know, gets brought up and then taken care of. So I'm not completely against that. However, for people who haven't seen Evil Dead 2, which is pretty much where all this started, you know, if you're a fan of the franchise, you'll know that Evil Dead 1 was remade in Evil Dead 2. I'm not going to go too much into it, but it in the first episode, he goes through the backstory of what happened to Evil Dead 2. So if you hadn't watched it before, you can get all caught up. It also introduces, you know, some new characters. One of them being Pablo, who was his co-worker, and Kelly, who was another co-worker who he has never like formally met yet, but sort of ends up getting roped into the whole situation. So it's really fun to see that Ash now has like sidekicks, so he can't do this whole thing by himself. And I really enjoy the fact that the side characters on their own stand up as relatively good sidekicks. They're not dead weight or anything like that. They all serve a specific purpose to the overall story, which I really enjoy. They're not just there to be used as Deadite fodder. They're there to be actual real characters with backstories and, you know, personalities. And I really love that. Not every character in this is just meant to die. They all the main cast all have their own backstories. Something really great about it is all the action, all the special effects seems to be split between practical and CGI, which is very, I thought, commendable. For something that is just going to be aired on television, they're actually going out of their way to include very good practical effects. Like some of them I see them and I'm just like, wow, they actually took some time to do that. However, on the opposite side of the coin, there is a lot of CGI used, and the CGI that is used is, of course, that made-for-TV CGI. You're not going to get, you know, 20th Century Fox or LucasArts type, you know, CGI. This is like made-for-TV CGI, and it's very blatant when it's there, but it's excusable in this case for me personally because it's just corny enough to where that gets a pass, if that makes any sense. It doesn't take itself so seriously to where you're like, well, that looks stupid as shit. It doesn't matter because the whole fucking thing is pretty much stupid as shit if you're a fan or familiar with the Evil Dead. It's what's known as splat stick, where, you know, it's very horrific and violent, but at the same time it's kind of meant to be funny. So, you know, when CGI shows up and I'm just kind of like, that looks stupid, it's at the same end of the spectrum, I'm like, well, I don't really give a shit because everything's pretty stupid. So that gets a free pass. Now that I've gotten all that out of the way, the story, however, after the initial 10 episodes that I watched, the story seems very organic. It flows very well from episode to episode to where you're not like, you can't really predict exactly how it's gonna go down. And I like that. There's so many times I'm watching it, I was just like, well, this person's gonna die. This person's gonna end up getting killed. This is what's gonna happen. Oh, he just did this, and now I predict this is gonna happen. But it takes the fact that you kind of have an understanding how shows and film of this genre and this caliber end up going. It takes what you'd expect was gonna happen and then completely reverses it. Like, it throws you through a loop sometimes where you're like, I'm almost certain that this is gonna happen, he's gonna die, this person's gonna get separated, this person's gonna turn evil, and then they just throw you through a loop and something completely different happens. It's nice to see that the people who are behind this, Ivan Raimi and Bruce Campbell, all the producers and the writers and the guys who make these stories and stuff, actually give a shit about the source material. Rather than just rehashing it in order to make a quick buck, they're actually really they're really into what they're doing here, and it shows, and it's very refreshing to see that. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Ash vs. the Evil Dead. It's fantastic. I definitely recommend it to anyone out there who's a fan of horror genre or anything like that. So anyway, yeah, give it a shot. And I don't know about you, but this has kind of got me in the mood to watch some Evil Dead 2, which I'm gonna do right now. So I'll see you guys next time. What is this? Clad 2, Verata Nick 2. Okay, whatever that means. Okay, what the fuck? Hello? Someone here? God damn. What the fuck, man? Heard Satan could use a hand. So yeah, Ash vs. the Evil Dead, highly recommended to newcomers and fans of the franchise alike. It's fantastic, no matter who you are. I'd go off to say anyone of any age will find some degree of enjoyment. It's just silly enough to not be scary, but it's still scary enough to be sort of something exciting to watch on television these days. So yeah, go watch it. This has been Roach the Human, and if you guys excuse me, I have to get off to a hospital to get this taken care of. So see you guys next time. You didn't hit my face at all.
It didn't work. I have this.
And now you still got it on the carpet.
Okay.
I had
Sorry.
such simple requests.
It didn't work.
Hit my face, don't hit the carpet, and you fucked them both up.
I tried.
Oh no. Oh, that's gonna bleed through.